Jack Thompson had always been a man of the land, rising before dawn to tend his sprawling ranch on the outskirts of a quiet Midwestern town. The air was crisp that fateful morning, carrying the scent of fresh hay and dew-kissed earth. But as he trudged toward the barn, his boots crunching on gravel, a familiar rage bubbled up inside him. There it was again, Brenda Wilkins' gleaming black SUV, parked smack in the middle of his workspace like she owned the place. The vehicle's tires had churned up mud, soaking bales of hay meant for his cattle, and the exhaust fumes still lingered, a toxic haze that made his blood boil. Brenda stood atop her SUV, arms crossed defiantly, her designer sunglasses perched on her nose as if she were surveying her kingdom. "This barn's big enough for everyone," she shouted down at him, her voice shrill and unyielding. "It's community parking now, deal with it," Jack protested, pointing out the damage, the blocked access to his tools, the way her reckless intrusion had left his cows shivering in the cold without their feed. But Brenda waved him off like a pesky fly. "Your junky farm isn't that important," she sneered. That was the breaking point. Jack's fists clenched. This wasn't the first time, but it would be the last. As he stormed away, his mind raced with plans for revenge, a fire igniting in his chest that no amount of reasoning could extinguish. He tried the civil route first, knocking on her door later that day with a polite request to remove her vehicle and stay off his property. Brenda laughed in his face, calling his ranch a pathetic eyesore, and slamming the door. Neighbors peeked from their windows, some pulling out phones to film the spectacle, whispering about the ongoing feud. Jack bit his tongue and walked away, but the damage was done. Ruined hay meant extra costs, his cattle suffered in the chill, and hours of work slipped away. Resentment festered like an open wound. That night, he called his old friend Tom Riley, a no-nonsense mechanic from town. "She's crossed the line one too many times," Jack growled. Tom chuckled darkly. "Sounds like she needs a hard lesson, buddy. Don't let her walk all over you." The invasions only escalated. A few days later, Brenda returned with a gaggle of her HOA cronies, transforming Jack's barn into an impromptu party venue. Music blared from portable speakers, empty bottles scattered like confetti, and someone even scratched graffiti on the wooden beams. Jack confronted them, his voice steady but edged with fury. "This is private property, get out." Brenda's friends jeered, and she humiliated him further, mocking his hillbilly ways in front of the crowd. Humiliated and seething, Jack retreated, dialing Tom again. "Stronger action it is," Tom urged. "You can't let this slide." Sleepless nights followed, Jack tossing in his bed as visions of retribution swirled. By morning, determination hardened into resolve. He drove to the hardware store, loading up on heavy-duty chains and industrial padlocks that could withstand a battering ram. The owner, Earl Dawson, a burly veteran with a knowing grin, leaned over the counter. "Heard about your trouble with that Wilkins woman. Had a similar pest once, thought him good." Earl shared tales of his own battles, fueling Jack's fire. "Stand firm, son. Sometimes folks only learn the hard way." Back at the ranch, Jack reinforced the barn doors, anticipating Brenda's next move. A strange calm settled over him, like the eye of a storm. Sure enough, she rolled up that afternoon, spotting the new locks and throwing a tantrum. "You can't lock me out. I have connections, HOAs on my side," she screeched, threatening lawsuits and bad-mouthing him to anyone who would listen. Jack didn't engage. He simply stared her down until she sped off in a huff. Inspired, Jack visited Earl's ranch that evening. Over coffee, Earl spun a yarn about trapping a trespasser's truck in his shed years ago, letting the fool stew until the lesson sank in. The idea clicked: a trap. Jack's plan crystallized. Let Brenda park inside, then lock the barn tight and vanish with the key, heading to the mountains for a fishing trip. It was bold, borderline controversial, but after months of her entitlement eroding his peace, it felt justified. Who had the right to invade another's land without consequence? The debate raged in his mind, but action won out. The trap sprang flawlessly. Brenda arrived the next evening, arrogant as ever, blasting her horn and parking deep in the barn without a glance at the reinforced doors. She hopped out, distracted by her phone, ranting about some neighborhood drama. Jack moved like a shadow, slamming the massive doors shut and securing them with chains and locks. The click echoed like a gavel. Brenda spun around, eyes widening in panic. "What the hell? Open this now," she screamed, banging on the wood. Jack's voice was calm through the slats. "You've trespassed, damaged my property, and treated this like your playground. Now you'll learn boundaries the hard way." He ignored her threats of police and lawsuits, turning on his heel and driving off to the remote mountains, key tucked safely in his pocket. In the serene wilderness, Jack built a fire by a crystal-clear lake, the crackling flames drowning out the buzz of ignored calls on his phone. Tom kept him updated via texts. Brenda's hysterics drew a crowd, but her attempts to free the SUV failed spectacularly. She called the sheriff, spinning tales of kidnapping her vehicle, but the lawman sided with Jack after seeing the evidence of repeated trespassing. "Private property means private," he reportedly told her. "You're lucky he didn't tow it." The controversy spread like wildfire. Neighbors debated online whether Jack's stunt was heroic vigilante justice or over-the-top entrapment. Some cheered his stand against entitled bullies. Others whispered about potential lawsuits, questioning if two wrongs made a right. After a blissful weekend, Jack returned, invigorated. He rallied Tom and Earl to build a formidable fence around the ranch-thick posts, barbed wire topping, and signs screaming, "No trespassing." Neighbors gathered to watch the spectacle, some offering tools, others filming. Brenda showed up mid-construction, red-faced, and screaming obscenities, threatening to rally the HOA against him. "This is war," she bellowed. But the trio ignored her, hammers pounding rhythmically. The sheriff arrived, drawn by the noise, and sternly reminded Brenda she was now the trespasser. Deflated, she slunk away, the air thick with unspoken triumph. The legal storm brewed next. Brenda fired off lawsuit threats via certified mail, claiming community rights and emotional distress. Jack wasn't fazed. He gathered ironclad evidence, photos of the damage, videos from neighbors' phones, receipts for ruined hay, and witness statements from Tom and Earl. In court, the tension was palpable. Brenda's slick lawyer painted her as a victim of a vindictive farmer, arguing the barn was quasi-public space. But Jack's presentation dismantled the lies. Timestamps showed her repeated invasions, and shockingly, evidence emerged that she'd been renting his barn to friends for parties, pocketing cash. The judge's gavel fell like thunder, ruling for Jack, imposing hefty fines on Brenda, ordering compensation for damages, and issuing a restraining order. Brenda erupted in a courtroom tantrum, hurling insults that only sealed her defeat. Jack exhaled in relief, justice tasting sweeter than mountain air. Yet the verdict sparked heated debates in town. Was the punishment too harsh? Did Jack's trap cross into harassment, or was it a necessary pushback against unchecked privilege? Brenda dragged her feet on payment, her arrogance crumbling under mounting debts. The court auctioned her prized SUV legally, and in a poetic twist, Earl snapped it up cheap. He repainted it in garish colors, emblazoning "Trespassers Beware" across the hood, parking it as a sentinel at his store. The neighborhood buzzed with celebration barbecues where stories of Brenda's downfall were retold with glee. She slunk away soon after, moving to another town, her reputation in tatters and HOA presidency revoked amid the scandal. Jack savored the newfound peace on his ranch, the fence standing as a monument to reclaimed dignity. Evenings found him sharing laughs with Tom and Earl over beers, reflecting on the ordeal. It wasn't just about one entitled intruder. It was a lesson in boundaries, the clash between individual rights and communal overreach. In a world quick to judge, Jack's stand remained controversial, hero to some, vigilante to others, but for him, it was simple justice, hard-won and unapologetic. The land was his again, and that was worth every tense moment.